Was there some trepidation on getting into something that you just felt like, oh gosh, I just don't know anything about this? Or were you like fairly confident, like, hey, I can do this?
I think we just love taking risks. And,
Yeah.
I've always heard the term no risk it, no biscuit.
We have a lot of case studies. Sometimes the most difficult part of what we have to showcase is who do we showcase? Because we're having so much success in all aspects of the real estate business right now. I think that that's the exact place to start. And that's why Investor Creator exists, is to take people from startup through struggle to success and do it as quickly as we possibly can. All right, guys, welcome to this Apprentice Spotlight. I'm really happy to introduce you to Scott and Shelby. These are two of my newer apprentices that have had amazing success out the gate. So one of the things that we see with a lot of the apprentice spotlights that we do is the spotlight is really a showcase of people that have been with me for months, if not years. But this time I really wanted to show what can it look like when things work really, really well out the gate. What Scott and Shelby have done their first 2 weeks has been a lot of fun. So approximately $230,000 in equity position in a 2-week period. And the fun part is they're doing this part-time. So they're going to be sharing with you exactly how they're getting their deals, how they're negotiating, how they're structuring things differently than what other investors are doing. You're going to want to see this. This is going to be a lot of fun. Check this out. This is me, Scott, and his wife, Shelby. All right, gang, welcome. Happy Wednesday to the IC fam and all participants today. Hello. All right, let me just kind of quarterback what the next hour or so is going to look like. I'm going to go through my background just a little bit. We're going to talk about what this is, what it's not, and how you can get the most from it, because we really like to showcase apprentices at times whenever something really special is happening, okay? And we have a lot of case studies. Sometimes the most difficult part of what we have to showcase is who do we showcase? Because we're having so much success in all aspects of the real estate business right now. And there's a whole lot that we could talk about. But one of the things that I think is really special about tonight is that we have someone that's very new, that doesn't have a lot of real estate experience. I know a lot of you guys come into this, don't have a lot of real estate experience right now. And I think that that's the exact place to start, because nobody's born as a real estate investor. Real estate investors are created. And that's why Investor Creator exists, is to take people from startup through struggle to success and do it as quickly as we possibly can. So for those that are with me tonight, hit me in the chat one win from the past week. Let's get the energy up. Let's have some participation, because I think that we can probably agree the worst thing that could happen tonight for the next hour is Brad talks the whole time. So you guys hit me in the chat, give me some wins, and also where you guys are from. Would love to connect with you guys in that way. All right. James, when did they let you out of prison?
You talking to me?
James Garland in the house? Yes, I am.
Oh, they let me out yesterday, as a matter of fact. Early for
Well, you look good. Tan. All right. We got Scott and Shelby closed on their first property in the past week from Utah. Fantastic. One win from Alabama for James Atwood. All right. New York City. Love it. Durham, North Carolina. Finished renovations on a fix and flip property. Myron, it's always like the devil's in the details, that last 5% of that house. So anytime you're doing those renovations, like it's always that last little bit that just seems to take forever. All right. I missed one here. Paper to deal in South Carolina, worth $120K. Mortgage $22K, repairs 10, walk away 3. Really, really good there. Wow, from Pakistan. Amazing. All right, Arlington, Texas. Cool. So appreciate you guys being with us. It's always good to be with a group of investors that are focused. It's Wednesday night. You guys could be off watching American Idol or whatever you guys would be doing otherwise, but you guys are here. So I think we can agree. Let's not sit back and hope that the magic happens. Let's be active implementers in what we're doing tonight. And for us, if we're going to spend the time together, it should be as efficient and effective as we can possibly make it. Okay. Maurice, good to see you, man. So let me give you guys a little bit about my background. I don't want to harp on this too much, but for those of you who I have not yet met, my name is Brad. I'm a real estate investor historically from Nashville, Tennessee. I've been in the business my entire adult life. I started off as a real estate agent at the age of 18, went into the investing side in 2010. That was tough timing. For anybody that was in the business in 2010, you guys know that the 2010 market was not a very forgiving market, right? It was a very tough market, but it was a market that allowed us to get really, really great terms and to then sell the properties owner finance. So a lot of what we've done is we buy creatively, we sell owner finance. And what we're really, really good at is the 3 pillars of purchasing, which is number 1, motivated seller lead flow, that we have to have people that have to sell property. I just spoke at a landlord convention about a month ago. I flew to Indianapolis to speak at the Mr. Landlord convention. And Had a great time, met some great people. But the one thing that really stuck out to me from that event was how difficult the difficulty that people were having purchasing equity in as is condition. Okay. There were probably 210 people there. And whenever I surveyed the room, and I'm going to ask you guys the same thing. So you guys be thinking about this. What's the biggest struggle that you have in your business right now? But I asked these guys that, and the biggest thing that they said was, well, we can't find great deals. We can't find great deals. Where are these deals where we're buying stuff at 50 cents on the dollar, right? And I was surprised by that because a lot of these people had been in the business for so long, right? But as we're going to learn tonight, whenever you have a process of purchasing, which starts with people that have to sell, the purchase side is not that hard. And I know that that's going to be something that's difficult for some of you guys to receive, because if you've been in the business for 15 years and you're still having that same problem, you feel like you're married to it, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, what we see for a lot of people, and what was fun to see with Scott and Shelby, and what I told them their first month was, we got to get rid of property. We can't close on everything that we have contracted right now, although everything makes sense because you start to have the fulfillment problem. So I believe that there's two problems in business. You have the marketing problem first, which is in this business, how do we get deals? How do we get really, really good deals? It starts with a motivated seller lead. In my world, second is reverse negotiation. We never give a price, we never make an offer, ever. And then third is understanding deal structure. So lower level deal structures like subject to, all the way to high end deal structures, sub 3, some now, some later, so that we can do deals that other people can't do, but keep cash and credit on the sidelines. And back in 2010, that's the only thing that worked, right? But once that marketing problem is solved, the second problem of business comes, which is the fulfillment problem, which in this business is, how do we deal with all these houses? And so when Scott jumped on a one-on-one with me, and I think Shelby was kind of in the background at volleyball practice or something, and we had 6 deals under contract the first couple weeks. I'd certainly seen that before, right? But I'm like, look, guys, things are working so well, it's going to cause the next problem too early. So let's rank order the deals, let's get rid of some of them, and really focus on the best stuff. And it's so fun because all the deals made sense, so some of them were more creative than others, but it's just a lot of fun. So in my background, I've done approximately 1,000 transactions in 39 states. I've done this business in good markets, in bad markets, and in between markets. There's always opportunity because there's always people that have problems. If we're sourcing people that are divorced, pre-foreclosure, they've inherited something they don't want, they're a retired landlord, or there's a health or safety issue, then we're always going to have opportunity, right? So I'm really looking forward to this. This has been something that I think is going to be impactful. So let me touch on why do we do these and really what the next 51 minutes or so is going to look like. One of the things that I learned in my career was that I was really a product of the people that I came up with. So, I struggled my first 2-3 years in the business. Nobody here wants your first 3 years in the business to be like Brad's first 3 years in the business, because I had a lot of mindset issues. I didn't know if I could do it. I thought the market was terrible, and it was, but I just didn't understand the opportunity that came with that. And so I had a lot of struggle. The only thing that really kept me going is I had a peer group around me that was doing better than me. So, and they forced me to really change the way that I thought about a lot of the limiting beliefs that I had. So as an example, I believed because I was 23 years old that I couldn't buy houses subject to, where a seller leaves a loan in place and is going to deed me the property, okay? Because I was 23 and I looked 16, Well, then I met a guy that was 23 years old and he was doing sub 2 deals, but he was my age, right? And he looked younger than I did. And so that limiting belief had to crumble, right? And then I said, well, gosh, maybe I don't have enough time to do this. And then I met my good friend, Jerry Ricky, who was a school teacher full-time, taught 4th grade, and he was buying houses on his lunch break and on Saturday and Sunday. And he did, I think, 31 deals in a 12-month period where I was doing 3 or 4. And I thought, how could this possibly be? But I knew I had more time than Jerry did. And so the reason that we do this first is to build your belief muscle, that we can show today a case study where, in 2-3 weeks, we bought almost as much equity as what they were hoping to do for the first year, right? And if you guys are struggling right now, it doesn't have to be that way. If there's a problem, there's always a solution. And understanding the problem is almost always 75% of the way to the solution. Okay, so the first part of this is building the belief muscle. But then also, I want you guys to really come away from this, maybe some different strategy. Because if we have belief is power. You have a lot of energy behind what you're doing. But if you're running east looking for a sunset, it doesn't matter how hard you run. It's the strategy that's wrong. So we're going to talk a little bit about strategy as well. So if you guys can do this for me, hit me in the chat, because I want to know who you guys are and kind of your experience level in the business, so I can kind of curtail this really more towards what you guys need. Because again, if we're going to spend this time together, I want it to be as impactful to you as I can possibly make it. So hit me in the chat how many deals you've done. If answer is 0, that's perfectly fine too. Give me an understanding of where you guys are. How many deals have you guys done total? So Michael says brand new. He says 4 zeros. Love it. Glad you're with it. Justin says 0. No deals. All right. 10, 15, 4. Okay. So a good balance, 70 or so, 10 years, 1 sub 2. Okay. We got to, Henry, those are rookie numbers on the sub 2 side. We got to pump those numbers up. Bought and sold 4. Cool. Love it. Zach and Cheyenne, good to see you. Right. Fantastic. All right, cool. Now, James, you don't have to brag there. All right. Sam says 30. Fantastic. Really good. All right, cool. So if you guys can tell me what's your biggest struggle right now in the business, okay? Well, where are you guys breaking down? Or you can't find deals? Is it the financing? What is it right now that's keeping you guys from being as successful as you're hoping to be? Time? Well, see, Sam, time is a function of the process. So, of course, if time is an issue, but you're knocking doors trying to find deals, it takes a lot of time to find those deals, right? Deal flow, deal structuring. Got it? Okay. Finding deals. Cool. That's what I suspect. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about, at least, maybe not majority, but a significant minority tonight. So I want to welcome Scott and Shelby Tejan. Appreciate you guys being with us. This is going to be a lot of fun. I doubt I'm even going to sleep after this.
Don't get that excited, Brad. We're not that interesting.
All right. So I think everybody would love to know your background on kind of what you were doing prior to real estate. I assume that you had a deep real estate background and you understood construction and finance, and you guys have done this a lot, but kind of help out everybody understand what's the background prior to what you're doing now.
You want to start off?
I mean, I was the 8-year-old that had the paper route in Southeast Idaho, delivering papers 7 days a week at 6 a.m. So I always kind of loved being an entrepreneur and working that way, but then went to college, got into the corporate world. That's been a lot of fun, but it's been a ride. And as much fun as I've had there, I always kind of knew I'd eventually kind of get back to my entrepreneurial roots. But over the years, I had the chance to work for Tesla, had the chance to work for an IT monitoring company. I worked for the first and only software company to cross $1 billion in revenue at a 40% growth rate. So that was way fun and interesting to see. But yeah, I worked for a few different tech companies since then and had a really good time. But I always knew Shelby and I would kind of start a business and get into it together, but never knew exactly what it would look like. But we always had the hunch it would be real estate. Real estate looked and kind of felt like the ivory tower where people had it figured out and it was their little secret. And we always kind of wanted to figure out how to crack that code. And I think now we feel like we have. And then Shelby's been a homemaking engineer, right?
Homemaking engineer.
I like that.
I like that. That looks good on a resume. Yeah, I've been a stay-at-home mom now for the past 11 years. And so that's just kind of been my domain, is taking care of kids and listening to Jen Baker. I love listening to what she has to say because she's been in my shoes. Now, I don't homeschool. I have a whole new level of appreciation for Jen Baker for also doing that. But I've heard her mention multiple times, just good enough. As long as we can get it good enough. And I'm that is so me. So I'm how do I apply the good enough mentality? When we're rushing out the door and our kid has 2 shoes on, but they're mismatched and they're on the wrong feet. That's good enough. Let's go. Let's go to the park. How do I apply that to the business where I'm just, because I focus on all of the details. So I would say that's probably my biggest hiccup right now is I've gotten so good at using the good enough mentality at home. Now I just need to apply it to the business. So, but I was listening to the training, and I don't know her name, but she talks about all the brain work. And I was listening to her, and it was so fascinating that when you introduce a new concept, when you haven't been using it. So one, when you don't use something, you lose it, right? If you learned a new language and then you don't use it, you eventually, your brain just starts to discard it. So she says the same is true when you go to add new things is that your brain will then create new pathways to help you look for things that you're currently learning. So like for me with real estate, having no background, I'm like, okay, what's a foreclosure? What's a sub two? I didn't know anything. So it was really encouraging, like listening to her podcast, that it's like, this is totally normal. This is just my brain rewiring itself to be more receptive to getting new information. So anyways,
100%. So with that, was there some trepidation on getting into something that you just felt like, oh, gosh, I just don't know anything about this? Or were you like fairly confident, like, hey, I can do this?
Well, doing it with Scotty, like, I don't think I would have done this by myself. Like Scott mentioned before, we've always been like intrigued by the real estate area, but I wouldn't have just done it by myself. Like Scott's been such a big help.
I think we just love taking risks. And
Yeah.
I've always heard the term no risk it, no biscuit. And like I've kind of adapted that into my life, knowing that like, hey, you need to take some risks, you need to get things into, you need to take some chances. And we were very fortunate because our Uncle Paul, my cousin Tyler, they've been doing it for a year. And so we got to see them do it firsthand, which made a huge, huge difference. Because especially the stuff you were promising earlier on, Brad, I was like, there is no way. Like Shelby and I just weren't thinking and dreaming big enough, which is funny for me because I worked for the richest person in the world. And I've been in rooms with people that think like larger than the universe. And just hearing you talk about it and then reverse engineer it, I was like, I think, yeah, like maybe, because Shelby and I, like, we had these goals, like, let's start a business, like, let's do 10 grand, like, maybe we could do 50 grand a year with a little side hustle, in a combined couple business. And here we are, like, whoa, Brad was right. Like, we're in a different stratosphere, and we just weren't thinking big enough to start with. And we're really glad we took some risks.
Yeah.
I love that. So in terms of, I guess, let's just go about it this way, kind of give everybody an update, like, kind of tell the story. When did you start? What did you do? How did you feel? And kind of give the results. And then maybe we can start talking about deals and that kind of thing.
No, like we finally made the decision to pull the trigger and jump into this in early April. You took like 1 or 2 meetings and had like the lowest pressure close I've ever seen. And you spent so much time getting to know us. And you helped us fill out a dream board, which we kind of done before, but hadn't really done it. And you were just like, well, what if you do $500,000? What if you make $1 million a year? And Shelby and I are like, whoa, Brad, whoa.
Was that a little bit scary for me to like throw out numbers like that? I mean, my vantage point is so skewed because I've seen people do it, right? But was that like intimidating or scary for you guys?
Yes and no, because I don't know. We have made like really great money in our lives every now and again, especially working in sales. And on the other hand, like I think everybody on this call, I think everyone in the world knows somebody that has absolutely crushed it in real estate. So we knew it was possible. We knew they were playing a different level of poker, right? Like they were, no limit poker while we were over there at like the $5 craps table, right? Like, so we kind of knew it was possible and we knew there was a path to do it, but the big thing for us is like, what does the structure look like? Do we have the help? Do we have the mentorship? And I think that's what attracted us so much to this program is like, man, everything is right there. And like, especially in business, I've learned like, if you want to get good at business, it's all about that speed and you have to be able to remove blockers. And from what I heard from Paul, Tyler, seeing the group and hearing from everyone, like those blockers got removed really, really fast. And then the wild thing for us is like, we sign up, we pay the money to join the program, and then we get into your onboarding and your training. And I was like, oh, this is great. Like, this is better than I expected. Cause like, and you just told story after story of like what to expect. And especially hindsight now since April, like, oh my gosh, Brad was right. And Shelby and I almost laugh because every single time something like that happens, we were like, we were told this would happen. And we just didn't quite expect that level of like, here's what to know what was coming, as opposed to having to like try to reinvent the wheel ourselves.
So like, what's an example of that? If you can come up with something like what's an example of something that you were told that ended up hitting exactly like what we said?
I bet you have a few good ones. I got like 4, but so you teed it up a second ago is like, and even then you said it earlier on in the program, it's like, yeah, we're real estate folks, but truth be told, we're just really good real estate marketers. We are really good at finding great deals. And I was like, I've heard that a lot. Like that was another one of those like, sure, Brad, like we'll see about that. And then so sure enough, we get lined up with Eric, who I believe to be the best Google Ads manager in the world. And he tells us, like it's going to take a little while. You're going to have that week where you don't have any leads come in. That was great. We were on vacation that week. And then like,
that's right. You went on a cruise.
We went on a cruise. And even you were like, Scott and Shelby, you're going to pay for your first deal on a cruise. And we're like, I don't think so. Like, we'll see about that.
Well, I was pulling for that. That's what I wanted. Like, you guys go on a cruise, the lead flow starts, we buy our first deal that pays for the cruise and the first year of everything. Like that's what I was pulling for.
So we get our first lead on our flight home, and it's like the worst timing in the world. Like you can't take a call on a flight. So like try to hand it off to my cousin, and sure enough, she didn't fit into one of the big 5. And then the next day we get a call, and it was like I thought we were being punked because it was like so easy. It was like suspiciously easy. And I was like, this must be someone from IC because it was just like the easiest deal in the world to paper and the margins were great. It was an inheritance situation. And I was like, that was weird. And then the next day we got another one. And then we got another one. And so that's why it was so funny. Like, so we papered 3 deals our first week, and then we papered 2 more that second week, and then even another one after that. And I just, I was like, we can't be like, there can't be this many people from IC like punking us, like making it this easy to paper deals. These are like true properties and like real use cases. So I'd heard you say it. I'd heard my Uncle Paul say it. Like you really kind of want to start with like 1 deal a month to like get your feet wet and get used to it. And here's Shelby and I, like, ignorance is bliss. Yeah, let's paper as many deals as humanly possible. And so here we were. We papered more deals than we knew what to do with, and it was like a really good problem to have, and it was a great learning experience. But it was just so funny to then learn like, oh my gosh, like there's a decent amount of work you kind of need to do this. And that was right around the time I took a new job and school was out. So Shelby was kind of busy all day with the kids, but we were just tag teaming it and just one thing at a time in terms of to-do list. But y'all were right. Like, it is, when you're new, it is really hard to paper 5 deals in your first 2 weeks and then kind of, figure out how to do it on there. But that was also like a testament to the group because we were just able to jump on calls. We were jumping on multiple. I felt bad for a while there. We were like crowding all the time, it felt like. But y'all didn't care. James was staying over on calls, and even you taking individual one-on-one time. Shelby and I were just like, wait, hasn't this guy done 1,000 houses in real estate? Like, why does he still care about us? Like, we didn't even pay him that much. Like, why are we one-on-one time? And so Shelby and I were just like, Brad's too nice. Like, I think there's a catch here, but outside of him having our credit card on file, I don't know what he's going to do. Like, I don't know how we repay this guy for everything he's done for us. So any other surprises or areas where like you thought Brad really saw something coming that surprised us?
I mean, we haven't sold a house yet. So we've papered deals, we've closed on one. And so we haven't been like paid on it yet. So I'm still waiting for that where you're like, oh, like, because I think we were saying like if we could make like 250,000 like in the year, like that would be amazing. And I remember you saying like, well, that's just too low. And then I was like, oh, like without hesitation, that's too low. So I'm like, okay. But then we paper these like 5-6 deals, and 3 of them are like, pretty good. Like the margins are there. They're really good. And I'm like, those like 3 deals alone will get us over halfway there. And so again, we haven't been paid out on anything yet. I feel like right now, like the money just keeps like going out. We're just in that part of the business where, you're paying for the marketing, you're paying for your business, it's a lot, but we just keep planting these seeds and just learning as we go. And I think the biggest thing that we're probably going to talk about is all the mistakes that we've made so far in the business.
Well, we definitely want to cover that. I mean, whatever, the good, bad, the ugly, I think all that's important. But I will say, to hop in on this, because some people here are wholesalers, they're making 5-10 grand a deal. We generally don't wholesale. Like, we'll wholesale out stuff that we don't want because we have better stuff. But a lot of what we do, guys, is we buy creatively, we sell owner finance, we'll buy it creatively, and we'll retail it out. We'll take the cash. And on rare exception, we'll buy something cash and retail it or owner finance it. And I think we've got, kind of what we call a crap flow deal. It's a junky property that's so cheap, but then we can owner finance it or potentially retail it as is, and and that's fine too. But it's just different. So like whenever we're talking about 250K, we're talking about 4 slightly above average deals or like 5 really average deals. And if someone's putting in the work, I mean, it's just like, sometimes I'll have people say, well, I want to make 100K my first year. And I'm like, well, we can't work it and just make that because the system is not going to go that slow. Like if you want to like quit half the year, then sure, like do whatever you want. But like 250K, I think is the minimum that people should be making when they do the work, they follow the process, and like there's a reasonable amount of effort given, right? But people got to do the work, and Scott and Shelby really did the work. So let's go back to that first triage call. So for those that don't know, a triage call is when we're ascertaining, do we have a motivated seller? So that's the first phone call that we have with the seller to really decide, like, similarly to a triage nurse at a hospital, like, okay, do you have a limp and a fever? So you're going to go to the waiting room, or is there blood from the neck? You get a doctor right away. We're seeing like the level of need that someone has, right? So tell us about the first or maybe second triage. What did you think about it? What did you learn? Was it difficult or easy? Like, kind of go through that process. And then, like, let's talk about the first deal.
So we papered our second, third, and fifth lead we got. And the third one, we'll say, that one, And that one we're really close to closing on. We're going through the fun part of an active foreclosure and getting that clouded title lifted, which great help from you all. But that one was really interesting because it was a gal that had been in a house she'd been in the house 10, 12 years. She hadn't paid her mortgage in 3 years, which I didn't know that was possible.
And this was Florida?
Yeah,
Mhm.
down
Okay,
in Tennessee. But she was in a pretty desperate situation. You know, she'd been getting letters. She knew information. She was $67,000 behind in the house. And so she's about to lose it and she's about to get nothing, but she did have a decent amount of equity. She also had a really good interest rate. So Shelby and I, we were so glad. We feel like we'd taken a PhD level in, real estate acquisition to know what our options were and how to best go about it. And then it was also wild because here it was, she hadn't paid her mortgage in 3 years, but she still wanted $70,000 in walkaway on top of her high amount in her arrears. And we were like, whoa, I don't know if, not saying I can, but if I could, we went down the list of kind of how to do that. And it was just wild because, I didn't think it could happen. I went from the triage call to perfect presentation and then just followed the exact script and literally just the pauses, the perfectly timed pauses you talk about, laying out the numbers and letting her know how we can make this work and why we wouldn't be able to. Her walkaway got down to 10 grand. And
so you went from 70 to 10.
Yeah. And on one hand, I negotiate for a living and I kind of maybe gone down that same negotiation path, but yours was on a scale of ease, effort, and speed. It was in a different ballpark than what even I would have done in a world where I negotiate in the corporate world every day. So I was just floored that real quickly we got to a number we needed to. She was confident. She put out the number out there. And for me, I was stunned. I went back to Shelby and I was like, all right, you may have had questions about this, but it works. It true, we're doing this all the time, every time, because we know it could work. And so, yeah, that was the detail you were looking for from our first triage call?
Yeah, that's super cool. So gang, we never give offers. We never make an offer. We never give a price in my negotiation sequence. And there's 3 reasons for that. Number 1, an offer is a commodity to shop. So if you're in a situation where you're in the business now and you're making offers and you leave an offer and they want to think about it, right? You follow up, they got $1,000 more, you lost control, you got shopped. Okay, so that's the first reason we don't make offers. Number 2, a lot of times the seller's price of what they would accept is lower than what you would offer. So that creates a type 2 error. Okay, so the most egregious example of this, I bought a house that we sold for $245,000. It needed $40,000 worth of repair, but we bought it for $15,000. Okay, and most people, whenever I give them that scenario, they're paying 120, 130 grand. We paid 15 because that's what solved that seller's problem. Okay. And the third reason why we don't make offers is that it gets us to the correct deal structure, right? So let me ask, on that deal, was that an all cash deal or did you get deal structure on that?
We got deal structure on it. Yeah, she had a really good interest rate.
Okay, cool. So tell me about the interest rate. And I guess give me the numbers on the deal and I'm going to throw it in the chat. So what was the mortgage on it?
171.
171K. And then what's the walk away was 10?
10, yeah. And she had a 3.8.
A 3.8
interest rate.
3.8% interest rate. Okay. What were the repairs like?
Carpet, light bulbs, a few things in the kitchen. So all in all, 10 grand was a pretty safe estimate.
Okay. So 10K there.
House itself, I think, was only 13, 14 years old.
Gotcha. And then what was the value after those 10K in repairs?
You were right. You do see a broad stroke of CMAs, but they were between 245 and 275.
Okay, so we'll call it 260. Okay, so value 260, and then arrears were how much?
So of that 171K in the mortgage, she was behind on about 65, 67K.
So the 65 is already included in the 171.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, so we don't need that. So guys, and this was the first deal that we papered?
Second.
Okay. So second deal that we papered, mortgage is 171, 10K walk away, 10K in repairs, value 260. Pretty good. So we're going 191 to 260,000. Pretty good. So that was the second deal. Which one was the first deal?
The world's most complicated inheritance situation.
This was the all the heirs. Okay, so this is going to be interesting for a lot of people because this is going to show the struggle of what you run into sometimes with Big Five motivation. So walk us through that one.
The person on the deed, the mother, had passed away 2 years ago, had never gone through probate, had never gotten everything ready to go. Of this 8 children, 7 were still alive. The one that had deceased had 2 kids. So we had 14ths, essentially, or 16ths involved. And then of those 8 siblings, of the 7 living, one was AWOL, refused to communicate. The debate over this property had kind of sent him over the edge and he refused to talk to anyone else in there. Even hindsight 2020, I was talking to one sibling that was trying to lead it out on it and she wasn't even making introductions. And I should have, hindsight 2020, I made some mistakes along the way to where we definitely could have gotten that one further along or done even better on it.
So what mistake do you think you made?
I was single threaded. I was just working with this one gal.
Yeah.
And one of the children still living in the home that I had taken care of the mother till the end. She told me she couldn't speak. And it was kind of like
physically couldn't speak.
Physically couldn't speak, air quotes.
Yeah.
And she was trying to, she was the one that she'd done the negotiation. She told me what she thought was fair. In that case, the house, they got an offer a year before for $200K, but they couldn't jump on it because they had one sibling that was out of the loop. And that was even pretty realistic for the age condition of the house up there in Nebraska. I should have gotten everyone in the room. I should have told her we have to have even like a structure call with the majority, get the majority of the siblings on board and make sure they were all agreed to on the walkaway amount. Because sure enough, she told me what she thought was fair for everyone to get their walkaway. She said she discussed it with everyone. You even told me when she finds out what you're selling it for, one of the children is going to step forward and say, I'll buy it for more. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, that's pretty much exactly what happened. And so it was my mistake of not getting a majority, not getting all of them to sign the paper. I got 2 or 3 signatures on there, but not a majority. And so some jumped the gun and I was rushing to get a signature instead of what I really needed, which was a majority.
Yeah, but I mean, I will say in those situations, you do the best you can. Yeah. You know, like there's no real playbook whenever there's 7 heirs and one of them is really detesting the idea of selling in the first place, right? Yeah. So I think you did fine, man. But you know, we'll see what happens. Where does that one land right now? Like it's just kind of in the queue.
One of the other siblings bought it and closed on it 3 weeks ago. So
okay. All right, cool. Well, look, charge it to the game. Sometimes that happens. I mean, I assume we didn't get our memorandums filed
because even discussing it with you because we didn't have a majority of signatures. Like it sounds like we had nothing to hold.
Gotcha. In some states that could be true. All right. So let's fast forward because I know that we have the crap flow deal that we signed in blue ink, right, Shelby? So let's walk through that one because that one is one that I think a lot of people will sleep on and not really think about in terms of like really the opportunity. So walk us through that one.
Yeah, sure enough, we got the call. I pulled up the pictures and it's a crap flow. I think we all know what a $5,000 house looks like. And sure enough, this seller, he'd done the demolition. He put on a new roof. He put a new electrical box. But this house was stripped down to the studs. You could see the subfloors. The condition of the house, they didn't even know when it was originally built. By all accounts, we think it was built in the 50s, but there's no deed that goes back to that. Like, it has a deed now, but there was no record of when this house was originally built. And it's just in a small town in Arkansas. Since he was moving away, even though he paid $17,500 for it 3 years ago, and it probably put $10,000 worth of work and demo and everything, he was like, I just need it off my hands, and I'll take $5,000 for it.
No, he originally wanted 10.
That's right.
He originally wanted 10. And then again, we went back to your, the pause and we just waited. And he's like, but I'm also flexible on that amount. Like it was literally, I think like second number 5, like, but I could be flexible. I could be flexible on that. So Scott was like, well, let me just talk it over with my business partner. I'm like right in the room. I'm looking at all of this. And he's like, and we'll get back to you. So, and we scheduled for the perfect presentation. And, I was like, well, let's see how much more we can get him to come down to. And we eventually got him to come down to $5,000. But at first, like Scott was like, this is just a crap deal. Like, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, this a $5,000, we could pay cash for this, right? Why are we not taking this? Like, let's just do it. Let's gamble this. Like, come on. And usually I'm the one that's like, oh no, we're not going to do that. No, it doesn't make sense. And Scott's usually the one that's more gung-ho on things. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And sure enough, that's the first house we closed on. That was like outside of the frickin' blue pen and not being able to find one. Okay, so on that one, the seller was so chill. He was the easiest guy to work with. Like I told Brad on our last support call, I'm like, I could literally do one of these a month and I would hit my $250K and I'd be happy to work with any guy like that. Like he was so easy, so responsive, so chill. And we had missed an email because we were getting ready to close with him last Friday. And we had gotten an email from the title company like 3 days prior, hey, we need these documents notarized. Again, we hit every speed bump, every mistake. We've tripped and fell all the way to this closing. And like everything that could have gone wrong, like went wrong for us. Again, that's me thinking. So we were like, oh my gosh, Kate, the title company emails us again. Hey, he's coming in 1 hour. Can you guys send over the notarized documents? And I'm like, we have to get it notarized. Scott, we have to go right. Like we're fixing lunch for the kids. I was like, 10-year-old, you're staying here. We've got to run to the bank. It's like right down the road. And I'm like, I don't even know if they have a notary there. I don't even know if they could squeeze us in. He's going to be there in an hour. So we get there, we're waiting, and sure enough, the lobby just fills up. This bank is usually dead. And all of a sudden, there's a line of like 5 people. And I'm like,
Right.
what's going on? And then they finally get us to sit down, and I'm reading through like the title, what like the title company requires. And I was like, oh, Scott, just make sure you ask the teller, like, make sure it's in blue ink. We need a blue ink pen. And they're like, all we have is black. And I'm like, we're not going to be able to close on this house because we don't have a freaking blue pen. I was about ready to jaywalk across the street to like the Dollar Tree and go buy a blue pen. And I was like, if they don't have one, like he's on his way to sign and collect his money, but he won't be able to do it. And he has been the most easygoing. I'm like, if we drop this ball, like I'm mad. I was so bad. So long story short, they found the blue pen. We get it signed. We fax it over. Sure enough, it shows up black. It doesn't even show up blue. You go to scan it. It doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm like, okay, so now I'm going to bring every color pen with me. I'm going to have all of my documents printed, ready to go. We were so unprepared for that. But anyways, that was our first house we closed on. So
I love that.
It was just a ride.
Whatever it takes, whatever it takes,
Yeah,
you know.
it was so funny.
So you guys have your contractors lined up. You're pulling permits. You're going to do this big rehab, right?
No. We're selling it as is.
Oh my goodness. So
Yeah.
you're selling it. So you bought it for 5, and
Yeah.
what did we figure out the value to be?
The CMAs all came back between 25 and 30.
Yeah.
And then the other background that kind of helps us out with this is he paid $17,500 for it in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And then he put on the new roof, did the demo, did a ton of the work on there. So
Cool.
yeah.
Cool.
I'd be
Yeah.
happy if we made 20 grand on this deal. At least that would like cover the cost of the program, some of our market, you know what I mean? Just to like give us something.
Yeah.
So I know we could probably drag it out, and like you suggested, owner financing it at like 60, I think you said 59.9.
I think-
Yeah, we tried doing that, and we got like a lot of ho-hum responses from people, nothing very serious. A lot of people offering us like maybe 2 or 3K down, and I'm just like,
Yeah, it's
I don't
tougher
know.
when the property needs a lot of work because they've got to go in
Yeah.
and do the work. You know,
Yeah,
so it just takes a lot of cash to do that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
that makes sense.
exactly.
Cool. All right. So which so far is your best deal, and which do you feel was like the worst deal you guys have papered so far?
I'd say the best deal is our Philadelphia house.
We haven't talked about that one. So
about
walk us through there.
We papered that our second week, I want to say in there. She owes $94K on the mortgage. She was
Okay.
not even really pre-foreclosure. She was like a month or 2 late on the mortgage, but it was just too much house for her. It's gonna be hard for her to kind of maintain it, and the house is more of a curse than a blessing. But yeah, $94K on the mortgage, $10,000 walk away, and then $13,500 in arrears for a HUD loan.
Okay. So 13.5K for arrears. So guys, arrears are back payments. So that's like what the property is behind. And what about repairs?
10 to 20K.
All right, let's call it 20. And then what's the value?
If we had a realtor go look at it, we got a really, really good inspector that kind of gave us a quote on all those repairs too. The realtor that went and looked at it, he's like, yeah, you could fix it up and it would probably be worth 240 to 250. But he goes, you could still easily sell kind of as is really, really fast for 200.
Cool. All right, so
Conservative.
buy it for 110K, sell it 200K as is. Cool. Love that. All right. So that's best deal. Which of the deals that you papered so far would you say is like the worst or not as good as everything else?
So there's a home in San Antonio. That was an interesting one because she wanted something like a $50,000 walk away. And then we get talking to her, and it was a seller finance situation. She got in a year before for like, I want to say 268. Sure enough, a 6-7% interest rate. And then she hadn't paid anything since she moved in. So it was kind of like surprising for us. It's like seller finance buyers do that. And then, so sure enough, like we went through the numbers with her, and it's just like what was left over, and was something in the neighborhood of 238. And then what was I going to say on there? So we were really tight with kind of where we were on the numbers, and we were thinking about owner financing it, and through that way we could have come out like we could have been nothing down, and we could have been cash flowing $450 a month, but it was just kind of tight to kind of get there, and we would need to sell it for a really good number. And then Texas has been a real interesting market because even from the time we papered it, the inventory in Texas was really, really building up. There'd been so many new builds, and there's a different policy in terms of immigration in the US. And so we were really, really tight on that one. And again, she'd bought it in September, and she had told us the house was in great shape. And the house even looked, of all the houses we papered, that one looked like in the best condition. And then this was like the week of all the flooding in Texas. So this is almost exactly a month ago. Our inspector goes out and takes a look. You know, we pay the $400 for inspector. He goes out and takes a look, and he's like, you got these bad issues with the foundation. It's affecting the electricity. It's affecting the plumbing. And then, by the way, like the roof is going to need at least 3-4K in work. Probably not totally replaced, but it's got, you know, it's got some areas where it needs attention. So sure enough, the inspection came back and he's like, it needs $80,000 worth of work. So it was like, I felt really bad for the prior person that had done the seller information or done the seller finance, because it was just like that all, we're so glad we did the inspection. But man, that one came back and we are just like, we can't come close to making this work. And we felt bad because she was a disabled veteran and we really wanted to save her from a foreclosure. But it was just like, whew, super glad we did the inspection. But it was, we weren't close to making that deal work.
Oh, and then we had to pay off the other people, right? The other investors. We would have had to pay them like 10 grand.
We were going to buy out the prior investor.
So her walk away, the mortgage, and then the prior investors. And then once we got back that inspection report, I was like, it already like was tight. And so with that, I'm like, we just can't make that work.
Oh, and that's good. So guys, here's the thing. A lot of people are scared to go to paper on deals because they're afraid that they may find out it's not a deal. You will find out that some deals just don't work. And so like the most surefire way to not buy a house is to not put one under contract, right? So you put stuff under contract if you have 70% certainty that the deal makes sense. And we know that 25, 30, maybe a little bit more, depending on how aggressive you are on the front end of your contract, should fall through, right? So if you are going to closing on 100% of your contracts, that's actually a type 2 error that you're not putting enough stuff under contract. See what I'm saying? So I think that's fine. I love your heart for people that like, we want to help the veterans and the single moms and the people that are hurting. But what I was taught, and I think that this is true, we're charitable with the profits. We're business with the business. Otherwise we won't have a business, that stands, right? Just paper it. We had an entire event called Just Paper It because I had a support call where the most common thing I said was, wait, is this under contract? Well, just paper it. We'll figure that out later. Just paper it. We'll figure that out later. So love that. I have one more question, then I'm going to turn it over to James. But what would you say is like the biggest surprise or like the thing that you didn't expect with everything that you've done so far?
So we've already established that we're pretty good with the triage call and we're pretty good at papering the deals. Our biggest like hurdle is going from like papering the deal to then closing. Does that make sense? Like I would say that is probably the hardest thing that we probably struggle with the most, wouldn't you say?
Going from paper. Going from a PSA to dollars, I guess you could say like.
Yeah.
I think the biggest surprise for me is like there honestly hasn't been that many surprises. Like I thought there would be more. In so many ways, like you all laid it out. Here's exactly what to expect. Here's how you attack a deal. Here's what the process looks like for each of them. Seeing the flows that are available kind of in the resources that you all share, I was like, that is so useful because we kind of know what to expect and kind of what those hurdles are. And then likewise, like there hasn't been anything that has like truly stumped Shelby and I for a long time. Every time like we're able to quickly ask a question in the Facebook group, get on a support call, get in there, you all answer it. So in some ways for me, like I'm surprised at the lack of surprises, I guess you could say. Like everything feels easily conquerable. Like we have more confidence than we should, I guess you could say, in the process at this point. And then for me, I think it's just the earning potential. And I think you hit it on the head. Like it's almost easier in this business to make 250K, 500K than it is to only make 50K or 100K. Like it really, you kind of got to be all in or all out. Like it's, it'd be really hard to, even for us, to only close like one deal every 5-6 months because there is a process, there is a routine through it. And even like your marketing, like when you really get into your PPC leads, like, pick your weeks, pick your days to be aggressive, to field it. And then, the other thing that rang true for us that we were surprised with that my Uncle Paul talked about is like 90% of this job is just being available, just being ready to that lead to speed, being able to do that. And then outside of that, especially for Shelby and I, we have in a lot of ways only been putting in 5 to 15 hours a week. Like,
and that's perfect. That's kind of what I expected. So Roy in the chat had a question. He says, are these PPC leads? They are, but the way that we do it's different. Okay. So we have 2 ads managers. We are spending approximately $380,000 a month right now with our entire community. And so because we have 2 people that are managing everything, we have all this data. We've spent millions and millions. I've spent millions of dollars, but as a community, we've spent a lot of money on ads. And so we have data that other people don't have, and we can spot trends that other people can't see, because when you're spending $380,000 a month, the average person might spend $1,000, $2,000 a month. Well, I mean, it would take a lifetime to get the amount of data that we get every month. And so because of that, we can see things that other people aren't able to see. We cut and paste what's working into a newer person's account, and we just know what's working. And so that's why we can like shortcut a lot of the timing issues or like ads not working and that kind of stuff. Like we can shortcut a lot of that, but just because we spend so much.
And I wanted to pile onto that because like talking with Eric, anytime you log into Google Ads and you go take a look at it, they have all these suggestions and they tell you 100 things you should do. But it's crazy how many of them are like bad advice, which
Yeah,
is
it's like don't do anything.
Google's really smart. But yeah, like, and even me, like I love to try new stuff. I even like, yeah, let's put an ad on YouTube and see what happens. And sure enough, it was like some of the worst marketing dollars I'd ever spent. Like the tried and true system that kind of exists in place and what, your PPC partners recommend. It's really tried and true, works really, really well. You'll have a tough time beating it, for lack of a better term.
Well, and I try to beat it. I'm running a test right now. Well, I'm about to start it on YouTube. And, so I used to run radio ads. I used to send 70,000 direct mailers a month. Like I've done other marketing techniques, but what I found was that nothing beat what we're doing right now. But I want to maintain that and know that that's true. So, like in the past, I've tried Reddit ads, I've tried LinkedIn. Like we're in the process right now of testing YouTube nationally. Honestly, I don't think it's going to work, but I want to know that it's not. So I have some of the top people that run YouTube stuff that are going to be taking this on, right? So it's going to be a good time with that. James, what questions did you have for tonight, man? I've been taking over everything and asking what I wanted to know, and hell, I plumb forgot about you, man. I'm sorry.
Hey, that's all right. That's all right. I just had one question that's been burning me up. Scott and Shelby, there's a lot of folks on this call right now that are not members of the investor creator community. Okay. So what advice would you give to folks that are on the fence about joining the community?
I don't know. I was on the fence for over a year when Scott's Uncle Paul first came to us and was like, you guys have got to try this. And I was like, let's see how he does. And then we'll reevaluate. Well, then he got his son, Tyler Kuhn, to also join. And I was like, okay, let's see how Tyler does it. And then we'll reevaluate. And then Tyler calls us and he tells us that he just got a wire into his bank account. And we're big into investing. We're, I would say we're pretty smart with money. Like we've lived debt free for the past 5-6 years. And so Tyler's like, asking us some money advice. We're like, sure, what do you got to work with? And he told us the amount and I was like, what? And I was like, what? And he's like, oh yeah, it's this deal that I got from this guy. And I was like, what do you mean you got that? What? So anyways, we sat down and we talked about it. And I think my biggest advice is just try the program. Like the community support has been phenomenal. And hearing testimonials from like our personal family members has been amazing and inspiring, and learning what everybody has done throughout the community as well has been so inspiring. And then looking at what we've done, like I said, we literally made so many mistakes, and yet we have 3 really good paper deals that we're moving forward with. And that right there is so baffling, because how many other jobs can you just make mistake after mistake and almost like screw it up completely over a blue ink pen and still close on a deal? You know what I mean? I think that was probably my biggest thing, is just take that leap of faith, and going back to that in the mindset section of your training where she goes over the brain work, is your brain looks for these new opportunities and thrives on them. And also you almost have to push yourself out of that comfort zone, because your brain also likes to stay stagnant and doesn't like to progress and move forward. But as soon as you start doing that, your brain will start looking for those opportunities. And it's been amazing that I'm like, again, making all these mistakes, but then learning from them, having the community, and we've been in the business now for 2 months. And I am really impressed with like where we're at. All the mistakes aside, I am really, really impressed with where we're at.
Yeah.
No, and we wouldn't have been able to get there without the help of the ICA community. Really credit that.
And then I just add, like, it's going to sound fake. It's going to sound like I'm paid to say this, but I cannot stress enough how much everyone in the group, but specifically James and Brad and Eric, they all care about your success more than you realize. Like, they would go to war, they would do what it takes. They're not gatekeeping anything. Maybe they are, and they just haven't told me. But there are so few opportunities in your life to be able to like learn from someone that's doing things at such a high level that that they'll give you everything to replicate it. Like, I can't express how rare that is in business, that they care enough and that they're willing to share, because it makes your life so easy to be able to jump into a program and make this happen. And that just that's so rare in any business.
Yeah.
And then, I think for me, the last thing I want to do is be on my deathbed and like have regrets. For someone working an 8 to 5, I still enjoy my 8 to 5, but for someone that wants to like take some swings and see what it's like, this is such an excellent opportunity to do that. And I think the rest of your life, you probably always regret not taking the chance to be able to do something that you want to do or create the life that you want to. When especially this barrier to entry, like it's not that high. Brad and James, like they are not asking that much for really what they're giving back and helping make happen. Because the upside there, it is huge. Like you can definitely achieve goals that you never thought were possible. And so I'm sure for anyone that hasn't joined, they're just not dreaming big enough, and they haven't talked to enough people like us that like have been shocked kind of on the other side at how easy it is to make it happen.
I appreciate that, the kind words, and I get when people are skeptical because there's a lot of misinformation out there. It's why we exist. Because, I mean, frankly, I didn't want to do this. Like I was told, hey, you should go and teach. I was like, absolutely not. And it took people a long time to convince me because I'm like, I don't want to be one of these people, you know? But what I found was that the most rewarding thing that I've ever done professionally is bring people to the point that they couldn't have gotten themselves, or at least do it with, in 6 months where it took me 6 years, and I see that very, very often. So I appreciate the kind words on that. Guys, if you're interested in joining with us, we are dropping the link there. And I think the rest of the time, as long as Scott and Shelby have time, we'll go through some Q&A. So Tim in the chat says, this is going to be a tough question for you guys. How much money are you spending on advertising? So on a monthly basis, what are you guys spending?
Well, we only completed like one full month of marketing.
Yeah.
But
so I think the best way to phrase it, and Eric even warned us, like there will be a 7 to 10, maybe even a 7 to 14 day delay in getting your PPC like up and running right. So we kind of had this like false hope of like mid-May, like, oh, it started and it's on, and then kind of nothing happened. And then he's like, oh, because you have this monthly budget, nothing happened the first month, we kind of doubled it. And then that's when we saw like such a good flood of good leads, quality leads up and running. And then so we really, in some ways, we spent like $3,000 in like a 2-3 week span. And that got us like everything we still needed up till now. And as much as we could work, like we papered our 5 to 6 deals and kind of, in some ways, we hit a 6-month goal in 3 weeks. So it was like, whoa. So since then, we've just had it like on minimum spend, and we've just been working our deals. And so, but what we plan to do, starting tomorrow or, August, kind of start the front end of our pipeline again and then turn it up again. And, but you were spot on, Brad, like plan on spending $2,500 a month. But then the beauty of Google Ads is, and Eric or whoever your PPC manager is like, you can go in and edit it on a daily basis and kind of control that speed that you want to go. And if you're crazy like us, yeah, like go nuts for 3 weeks and bite off more than you can chew.
Well,
so your cost per contract was about 600?
Yeah, I would say that. I don't know if Scott mentioned this, but with that like 3,000 that we spent, we really only ran our marketing. We ran it at like 400 a day.
Yeah.
350 or 400 a day. So we were pushing out a lot of money on those few days. And it was what, 5 days that we did?
Math says, yeah.
I think it was about 5 days that we pushed, and we just cranked it up because Eric was like, let's just try it. Let's just see. Because he said it was like bringing bids to a table. He was like, so if you go in over the course of the month and you're only bringing in $50 worth of bids, he was like, you're probably not going to get those higher end deals. He was like, but if you come and you say you have like a $300, $400, bid, then he was like, that's when he has noticed that like we get higher quality leads. And I think that's why we were able to paper the 5 to 6 deals that we had. And we say 5 to 6 because like that 6th one was that not the Iowa, was it?
Nebraska.
Oh, the Nebraska. That's why we say 5 to 6 deals, because the Nebraska one was just like it was like a quarter of a deal, because we didn't really
Yeah, because you had 3 of 7 errors.
Yeah. So anyways, whenever we keep saying 5 to 6, that's what I mean. We papered like 5 solid deals, and then that one was like a little iffy. But anyways, we plan on doing that again starting tomorrow. We're going to up our marketing again to like 300 a day.
Yeah.
3 to 350. And we're just going to run that over the weekend, so 4 days, and then we'll shut it off. And hopefully that will generate a good amount of lead flow for us that will keep us again busy for the next couple of months. So, and then didn't Paul do that?
Yeah. The other thing I just add to that is that you can be very specific with your PPC ads.
Yeah.
So for Shelby and I, like she loves to do gym and volleyball in the morning. I kind of still have my 8 to 5. So she loves to pick, like, we just want our leads to come in between noon and 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And then Saturday we're kind of open all day, and then Sunday we don't, we turn it off completely. So
Yeah.
that way we still get to control our world and be smart about it.
Mhm.
And I think that's maybe just biggest surprise to all this is it's been a very convenient and easy to run business
Yeah.
when you know what you're doing.
Love that. Love that. So Sam in the chat had a question. Are you open to work on deals on, I guess, in any state?
What's your favorite line? Anything for
depends.
a price. So
Oh yeah, that too.
yeah, anything for a price. But it's just ironic because we're out in Utah, but average prices out in the West here are pretty high.
Mhm.
So like we've had a few leads come in kind of from this part of the nation, but we really just target any area where that median home price is below 400K,
Mhm.
especially as we're starting.
Mhm.
Those areas just make more, and people also out there, like for lack of a better term, they're a little less greedy. When you're here out west, people so hold on to kind of all the equity they have in their house, and then for how much more money it requires down, it's a much higher barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And I also think for those reasons, it's kind of opened up to different types of investors that aren't necessarily what we are.
Love
And
it.
we grew up in the Midwest, so we were both from Kansas. So we naturally just love Midwestern people. So that's where we mostly target. That's where our ads are at. So if you could draw a line down between like Nebraska, all the way Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, and then on over to the East Coast, that's essentially where we market. We were marketing in like New York and Chicago. But after we got like 3 or 4 leads from there that were they were just wonky. Like they were so off the wall. I was like, we went back to Eric and we're like, let's edit this and let's just stop marketing there and let's, boost it in Philly and some parts of Florida and other parts of Texas. And so that's the other part with the PPC is that, like Scott has said, like you're so in control. You're in control of the time, the money, when you want your leads to come in and where you want to market. And so that's been our biggest success.
That makes sense. I mean, it's the most scalable marketing source that I've ever found. And what you guys are going to see here pretty quickly is that it becomes very predictable. So if you want 10 contracts in a month, you know what the ad budget needs to be based on the rolling 90-day average of your cost per contract. And you can add a 10% buffer to that. And you can forecast, really how many contracts, how many deals you want every month. Me and James have done that for a long, long time. Let me ask this. When did we start our ads? When did they go live?
They went live. I say that in air quotes because I think they were supposed to go live something like May 14th.
Yeah.
But then we got our first lead
A week later.
pull up my spreadsheet. Yeah, May 26th. And then we papered 3 deals between the 27th and 30th of May.
Cool. Okay. So we've been really off more than we've been on, it sounds like.
So again, it is funny because, our leads essentially went live May 26th. And we've really just been working deals that we all papered between the 27th and the 1st. And they were live for a little bit further than that. There were certainly some other deals that we could have hopped on and jumped on. And I guess we did paper 1 or 2 after that. Oh yeah, our Philly house. We papered that one on the 6th of June. But we seriously papered 6 deals between
And
the
that was
7th and the 6th.
down our marketing, right?
Yeah, as soon as we had the contract, it's like, all right, we'll pump them.
Yeah.
So
and then we scaled it down.
that's something that Eric really helped us learn is that some people, they do run an average budget all month long and that works for them. Shelby and I will call ourselves sprinters and not marathoners because we do want to collect leads 5 days a month and we do want to hit our quota, I guess you could say, in that time.
Yeah.
Especially because we have family, we have kids. We don't want to live on a lead where we have to jump on it immediately. We like to strategically say these are the days we're ready for it. We feel really polished with our script and resources. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, 100%. So Rico had a question. How do you get leads without stepping on each other's toes? The idea of saturation. Have you seen any of that?
Great question. We got really good advice earlier on, especially when you're going to do a tandem type business like this or multiple people taking those leads. We set up CallRail. That was well worth the $100 a month.
So worth it.
And then they have a structure in there where you can set up when a call comes in. I made the choice and set the setting. It's going to ring for 30 seconds. It's going to ring both our phones. And then we have a recorded voicemail that it goes to after that. I think we had 1 call come in at 2 a.m. that went to voicemail. But outside of that, one of us is always able to take it. And so we always laugh anytime we get a call and or we lament anytime one of us gets a call and it doesn't go to both of us. But anytime both our phones ring, we're like, we get all excited, kind of do the point at each other, like, is it you? Is it me? And then we jump on it from there. But that's great because it allows me to still do my day job. It allows Shelby to kind of do her thing when she has availability. And we've been able to answer just about all calls and run them immediately.
Love it. Love it. So Rico, I mean, here's the thing, and I know this internally, we're capturing less than 4% of the traffic that exists on this medium with these key terms. So, I mean, we're missing out on 96% of the deals, and that's just blows my mind. So I'm going to throw this out there. Next 12 months, $1 million in equity. Well, how do we feel about that?
I think where we're standing now, I think that's very attainable. If you asked me that 2 months ago, I would have laughed. I just absolutely would have laughed. I'm like, no. But seeing like what is possible and the quality, like I said, just the quality of the leads that when we had our marketing turned up, like that was just incredible. I think that's very attainable.
Yeah, I feel really good about our business expenses. It's amazing how low the barrier to entry is to kind of get in and make this happy on here.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, like we're getting some deals now to kind of that we really plan to reinvest in the business and put it in marketing or have it as dry powder so we can jump on homes or not have to borrow money if there's a situation we need to pay off arrears or walkaways, or we can even get more aggressive in terms of the deals we take on. And then it is so funny for us because I feel like I have 20 friends and Shelby maybe has 30 where they're like, tell us how it works for you. Like they are so interested in how it works. And then on the flip side, like her parents, my parents, they're pretty close to retirement, but like we really look forward to kind of involving them in the business and figuring out how we can, in some ways hire them or hire our friends to scale the business and to get it to where we want to be. Because we feel really good about it, but we also know like we're not doing anything truly unique. We're just being people on the phone, running through a script and a framework and then work in the process. But outside of that, like you said, there's so much repeatability with this. Like it's one thing to get lucky with one really good lead, but like the 6 we got, how many other people we've seen do it, like that's what gets me excited. It's just how easy is not the right word, but how repeatable it is. Like that's what gets us excited.
It becomes easy over a certain period of time, and now for us, it's like buying another house. Like number one, it's not exciting. But then, but it's not hard. Like it's not hard once you understand what we understand. And, you guys are really a great case example of following the process, having a little bit of trepidation, but enough belief to start and then jumping in, and then following the process and getting the result. So guys, thanks so much for being with us. And for everybody here, I told everybody in the community that I would do something pretty cool for the people that stuck with us to the end. So I've got my first roundtable mastermind. I have 10 people coming to Santa Rosa Beach starting tomorrow. So we're going out to dinner tomorrow night. Coach Michael Burt's coming in, Grant Cardone, 10X speaker. I got Scott Bora, Pitch Equity Fund coming in. He's raising $1 million a day for his hedge fund. So we're all getting together with 10 people, just having a good time. My next event is going to be, I believe, in October. So anybody that's a part of my community in October, when we have that event, right now, you guys get it for free. So that's roughly a 5K value. We're going to give it to the people that are a part of the community. Now, if you're not a part of the community, I'm going to give you until the end of the week. Okay, so if you join by end of the week, we're going to drop the link in the chat to join with us and have a good time with that. So Scott, Shelby, thanks again. It's been so much fun to see what you're doing, and I know that we're at the very, very, very beginnings of this. I'm going to put it on my calendar, August 1st, 2026. We're going to have $1 million in equity there.
Let's plan on it. Yeah, Shelby and I are going to get after it. So gladly accept the challenge. And for anybody that wants to speak more with us or has more questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us on any medium.
Cool. Sounds good. All right, guys. Appreciate everybody being with us. You guys have a rocking night. If I can help you, Brad@investorcreator.com. Y'all take care. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Brad.
See ya.
Everyone.